Ladies and gentlemen, welcome at Ukraina Film Festival. Here with us, we have the special guest, Anastasiją Werlinską, the program director of the Linoleum, the Festival of the Animation. Hello, Anastasiya. It's very nice to have you here.
Hello.
Hi. So firstly, I would like to ask you about the condition of the Ukrainian animation. How is it doing? What is the state of it? So what do you think about it?
That's a tough question. I'll try to give you more or less a short answer. Well, for now, I would say that it's still in a state of rebirth because after 90s, the production fell dramatically here in Ukraine. And in 2000s, it began to grow again. So right now, finally, we have good support from the state film agency here in Ukraine, who give out grants to short films, to features, to TV series, to animated, I mean. But at the same time, there's still a lack of funding. But the main problem is about education as well. We almost have no education in animation here. So no specialized universities that would specialize only in animation, for example, or would have a proper animation departments. We have some private schools, but it's more like courses like on 3D animation or something like that. So in general, I would say that having a very huge country with a huge population, we have a very low animation production rate.
Gotcha. But actually, thanks to your festival, thanks to Linoleum, at least there is some doping for the animation. You are trying to bring the attention of the audience to it. As you mentioned, the lack of education, you are trying to fill this gap. You are trying to educate the people through the festival, right?
Yeah, that's true. We have an educational program every festival. We try to bring foreign guests here, and not only within the festival, but throughout the year. We do different kind of projects to make people learn more and also work as a networking platform as well for the festival, because it's important to bring animators together. Most of them are introverted people, and they don't communicate much. Mostly they sit within their four walls and just animate, and they don't know what's happening around them. So some of them think that nothing happens in Ukraine, which is not true, because we have actually a great amount of really talented people here.
Gotcha. This year at Ukraina Film Festival, we can watch 11 animation films from Ukraine. And I have to tell you that I was completely surprised about how different and how serious are the subjects, are the themes that these filmmakers touch. We have the animation that touches the subject of domestic violence. We have the animation that touches the subject of death and etc. So I think that actually this landscape of the themes and this landscape of subjects is very wide. It's not like that animation is still connected only with the form, but also it's very important what are we dealing with.
That's true, but I would say that it's something that started happening quite recently. I mean, because at some point we had more of a fairy tales animation without bringing very serious topics. And starting from recent years, people became more individualistic about what they're doing, and they started to share their own personal stories. Like one of the films, The Tiger is Strolling Around, it's a completely personal story of the director who had a depression, who lived through a couple of losses in her life, and she made this film. She voiced over the main actress there, who is basically, it is her, and she voiced it over, and her friends voiced over other characters as well. So basically, it's 100% autobiography. So yeah, that's true, and I'm really happy about that, because at some point, when we were showing, for example, international films who deal with very serious topics, sometimes these topics are so serious and so hard to take it to your heart. And finally, Ukraine began at some point doing the same films, which is really great, because we had banned erotic or sex themes or something like that. We used to have it in 90s, for example. That's another interesting topic to discuss, because this year we had a very great Ukrainian retrospective here in Ukraine, and it was connected only with erotic animation. And so the Deep Water, one of the films that is shown in the program, also deals with it, with mythological mermaid that has legs and like a very feministic, and at the same time is quite abusive because in the end she takes the man. But I won't spoil it if you're going to show it before.
Yeah, actually, this is another interesting angle, I believe, because among these 11 animation that we present at Ukraina Film Festival this year, there is a lot of animation that were made by women. So I can tell that actually this gender equality in animation film is very visible. I am just curious if it's only by accident that we have this parity, or is it something that you actually observe in Ukraine?
That's a very interesting one. That's true. We have more animation, women in animation than men, as for now. But I think it depends not on the animation in general, but on the type of animation. Mm-hmm. So I think that 3D is still mostly done by men. But if we're talking something about more classical and traditional one, it is more preferable for women. I don't know. I think that's kind of a division that I watch for now.
Gotcha. And talking about the form, do you see that actually this form is something that evolves in Ukraine, that the filmmakers, that the animators, they are looking for the new way of expressing themselves, that they are looking for the new way to bring something on the screen? Or is it actually something that is maybe rooted in some kind of tradition of animation in Ukraine? You mentioned about this movement of 90s animation. I'm just curious if the new filmmakers, if they build the bridges with the past, or if they are looking for something completely independently and they are looking for something very individual.
I would say that very much depends. For example, one of our most prominent animators, Mykyta Żurawlow, made his last film, Love, that was nominated for Animacji in 2019. And for example, he is a huge fan of Estonian animation. Mm-hmm. And his film is quite Estonian in the end, although it talks about Ukrainian realities. But I would say that most of Ukrainian animators are very individualistic. I can't say that they remind me of any other style on the international scene, for example. Of course, they are influenced by some other animators, that's for sure. But I can't compare them to anyone else, for example. That's really tough for me. It would be a tough thing to do. So yeah, I would say that mostly they try to have their own style. That's for sure. The only thing that we like here is the development of stop motion animation, for example. Mm-hmm. We have almost no stop motion animation studio, that's for sure. So this is like a technique that has a very big gap in development here.
Gotcha. And among these 11 animations, are there any interesting forms that you would especially recommend to watch to our viewers?
I would definitely recommend to see this film Deep Love by Mykyta Żurawlow because it is already online. He posted it online. So if you want to know more about Ukraine, you should watch this one. I would also recommend one of the most talented animators here, Stas Santimov. Most of his films are online as well, and he has this very dark and like horror movies made. I think you will enjoy them. I would say that this like the two top for me, but I'm not sure like whether other have their films online. So this two for now comes to my head, so I can surely tell you.
This is a must.
Yeah, this is like a must. This is like a must. Yeah.
You used an interesting sentence. You said that if we want to learn something about Ukraine, we should watch this film. Actually, this is the sentence. This is the thing that I was thinking about when I was dealing with this Ukrainian animation. Like we have this film made by Olha Hawryłowa. The film that touches the subject of the war. It touches the subject in a very interesting way, from the very interesting perspective. It touches it through the characters from the animation from kids. So I was just curious, like if you see that contemporary animation in Ukraine is somehow political, is trying to deal with this difficult subject that actually the whole country is dealing with at that moment, or is it only something that I am trying to find for force?
I would say that in general, no. I can't say that there are lots of animation. I would say they're like this film is a rare thing about this kind of a topic. Again, deep love, a bit, maybe just a bit political in a way, but in general, no, I can't say that we have lots of, I mean, the problem is we don't have lots of animation. So basically that means that we don't have something political or religious. I would say that mostly it's like something that authors live through or what they observe, but I can't say that we have lots of, I think people try to run away from it more rather than to live through it. But if we're talking, for example, documentary cinema in Ukraine, most of it is about what's going on the east of Ukraine, that's for sure. Like we have lots of films about war going, but not in animation.
So animators, they are mostly interested in telling the individual story, the inner emotions and that kind of subjects.
Yeah, that's what I observe for now. Maybe like for the next year, we'll have more of this film, but I would say there's another girl, Dana Kavelina, and I know that she was one of the people who lived in Donetsk or Lugansk, I don't remember, from the eastern Ukraine, and she had to move because of the war, and she made a stop motion film about it. But once again, this is a rare case, so I can't say that you can have it like in general.
Of course, but it doesn't change the fact that this animation that were picked to present at Ukraine Film Festival are super interested both in themate and both in theme and the form. So we would like to kindly invite our viewers to watch all of them. It's really worth it. Anastasiya, thank you so much for finding the time. Thank you so much for this conversation and introduction to Ukrainian animation. I believe that we will be definitely following up this subject in the previous years.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes. Goodbye.